On this week's episode, Timmy and I have the opportunity to talk about something I'm not even familiar with. That's not to say that in an arrogant way, but have you ever heard of right to repair? Well, that's what we talk about this week on Bald, Blind, and Buddies. Bald,
Blind,
and Buddies. Timmy C., happy Monday to you, sir. That's a contradiction in terms, but how the hell are you?
Good. Beautiful sunny day up in the upper Midwest here.
We are having the same thing here, and apparently it's supposed to rain later this week, so I'm trying to enjoy every second of it.
It's good for the crops.
All right. This country doesn't farm anymore, right?
Of course it
99.9% of all farming is done by less than 1% of all agribusinesses. It's this idea of Americana and waving fields of grain. It just doesn't exist anymore.
It does exist, John.
It does not.
They're just mega farms with giant tractors and combines. Like the land is still there.
It's still there, but this idea of sort of the Hoosiers notion of 1950s America is a tad dated, if you will. But that being said, the weather was so phenomenal yesterday. Our friends invited us. They're trying to size up locations for their son's high school graduation. And I only live about 5 miles from this beer garden right on the river. I've lived here 15, 18 years. I've never been there. Never even knew about it. And I was like, how do we not know about this? And we were sitting there and they had live music and they have these vendors and a food truck and just a couple of different vendors for beer, like beer and wine. Nothing major, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we left, my youngest daughter goes, can we go back there again? It's only open on Sundays and it's only open from April, basically the summer season, the first week of April to mid-October-ish, I want to say. So it's 6 months of the year, but it's, only open on Sundays. It's open from 1 to 7 or something. We're going to make it like a standing reservation. So that's why we had to push today. I apologize. But the most important words in the English language right now are it's our podcast. We can do what we want, right?
Yeah. And the second are don't get in the way of beer.
That's also true. That's also true. Somebody said yesterday there's 5 things in life that are good even when they're bad, and one was beer, bourbon, sex, golf, and pizza. I said, yeah, that's probably about right.
I might put coffee on that list, but
I've actually had bad coffee.
I love bad coffee. Yeah. Like the burnt industrial coffee. I love that. You go to the place and the nurse's station has like this ancient cinder coffee. Oh, it's so good.
Oh yeah. That stuff's been there since the Civil
War,
right?
Yeah.
And those nurses in that doctor's station, you guys have to live on coffee some of the hours you guys keep, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. That's when I got into coffee, was med school and grad school. So
yeah, I didn't know what I did before coffee. I had my first cup, I should say. Sophomore year, I was up writing an all-nighter, and I was like, wow, this is what people have been talking about all that time.
Well, the Enlightenment was coffee. Brought about the Enlightenment, if you want to get into that. So that's my theory.
Really?
Yeah, cigarettes and tobacco and coffee. Yeah, and put people on the moon. So
now, do you have a favorite coffee? Like, do you have a local?
There's a local place. Yeah. So here's the story. So I was with my son. We were on a little adventure last Friday, and I walked into this coffee shop, and you always love it when they're like, "Hey, Tim." And they remembered me, and I haven't seen this person in like a year, and she actually spilled coffee on me once.
That's why they remember.
I felt so guilty.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's okay. Stuff happens. It's called EVP is the coffee shop. Really good coffee here.
Is it in Madison?
Yeah.
Okay. We have a local chain here called Wawa, WAWA.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on the sound of a goose or something. I don't know. But anyhow, they make very good coffee, and it's very territorial around here. You either like Sheetz, which is the other convenience store, Sheetz spelled with a Z, or you like Wawa, and you kind of get a cross between the two. And we were actually in New Jersey this past weekend for our friend's confirmation and first communion and such, and I stopped and got a local coffee there. And you even have some other ones just over the river in New Jersey, the Quick Check and some others. So it becomes a very, very big deal. And I grew up on nothing but Dunkin' Donuts, but I've sort of moved off of it.
Right.
It's not to say there's anything wrong with Dunkin' Donuts, just it's not my forte anymore.
Right. You know what I like? I like Tim Hortons coffee, the chain from
Tim Hortons is good.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, he was a Canadian hockey player.
Yeah, I like that.
And they have Timbits instead of Munchkins and such. Yeah, my parents have one of those in Ohio. That must be a Midwestern thing. He must be.
Well, it's a Canadian thing. The closest one to us is in Michigan. So.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes sense. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get it when I'm out with my folks in Ohio. So,
Yeah.
Timmy, you had an answer to last week trivia, and you have an interesting one this week. You're coming up with all the trivias
Yeah,
recently.
yeah. Well, we're
Yeah.
trying this out. Oh, and just folks, we have like 50 subscribers on YouTube. Welcome. Keep liking, sharing, all that stuff. I put a poll on YouTube about ideas for next season. So if anybody wants to check that out.
Okay. I'm interested to see that.
Yeah.
And how is the advertising going? Just a couple of bucks that we've put into it.
It's paid some dividends. We definitely like it's related to the subscriber bump. I'm still having trouble
Really?
with them calling us political ads, which I don't totally understand, but we're working on it.
I'm surprised they haven't called us Wisconsin bashing idiots, you know?
Well, that would at least be
That's what
accurate.
we could basically call this I hate JD Vance and the University of Wisconsin.
Well, yeah, that would at least be accurate.
Yeah, right. It wouldn't be inaccurate.
No.
Let me put it to you that way.
So trivia, the question last week was, we all have the household lubricant known as WD-40. What does the WD and 40 stand for? Any guesses, John?
No, I remember it was like the 40th version or something, and WD was the initials of the founder, I think.
No,
right?
the 40th version of the tested, it stands for water displacement. So it was designed to keep parts from corroding, including the Atlas rocket.
Huh.
Yeah.
And
so
it was the 40th version?
the 40th version. And they never patented it because if they patented it, they would have to say exactly what was in it. So what's interesting, Wired magazine a few years back did a chromatographic analysis. And for you science nerds out there, it was carbon 9 to carbon 14 alkanes and mineral oil were the major components.
Yeah, huge nerds. Those people that are interested in that.
So
yeah, huge nerds.
WD-40.
I think Heinz 57 is the 57th variety too. I think that's it's usually it's usually a very simple explanation.
Yeah.
As to where the name derives from. Yeah.
Yep. Water displacement.
Okay, fair enough. And what do you got? What do you got for us nerds this week?
Okay, this one is a TV show nostalgia. In the early 1980s, you may remember a TV show called The Dukes of Hazzard. I was a huge fan. Two-part question. What was the hero car and how many, and I'll take within 10%, did they use during filming of the show? How many did they go through with all their stunts?
Over the course of the entire show or just one show?
The course of the entire show.
So for whatever 6, 7, 8 years it was on, right?
Yeah, like 5 years.
and Luke Duke?
Yep.
Yeah. Now, do you know who owns one of the originals now? I know this.
Well, I bet John Schneider does.
Yeah, I believe he does. And the golfer, the lefty, and his name is escaping me right now, the guy that can drive at a gazillion miles, he bought one. It'll come to me as soon as this podcast ends, but he won the Masters. And he owns one of the originals as well. So, yeah, and painted over the top for, some obvious reasons, but we'll get into that. So.
Yeah.
And you brought up this week's topic, which I'm fascinated by because I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. And so I want to hear you tell people what we're going to be talking about this week. And then secondarily, I want to offer some of my thoughts on, technology and how it's programmed to fail, basically. So why don't you tell people what we're talking about this week?
They might be related.
Okay.
So we're going to talk broadly about the concept called right to repair. It's basically the idea that you buy something, you should be able to fix it with a minimum number of restrictions, is I guess how I would describe it. The reason this came up is John Deere, the tractor manufacturer, recently settled a class action lawsuit for $99 million. It was basically brought by farmers who were locked into the dealer network for John Deere ecosystem to get their parts and their tractors repaired. So if a tractor isn't running, they're losing money and we are losing food. So this is a big deal.
Okay. So far I'm following you. But what is this right to repair?
So basically there's electronics in parts now, in a lot of parts, so that if something was fixed or installed and it wasn't a John Deere dealer, it wouldn't work in a tractor. So, yes.
Well, Apple engages in this behavior.
It does.
It drives me nuts, but go ahead.
So basically, the settlement was interesting. So for 10 years, John Deere will let them have access to the tools and the technology to repair stuff on their own. So they're sort of kicking it down the road. But basically, the idea is that you're no longer an owner of a product. You're like,
you lease it.
Yeah, you lease it. You're a licensee
Yeah,
of the product.
you're paying them for the honor of buying their product without being able to fix it yourself.
Yeah,
Is that my understanding? So
yeah.
basically what you're saying is John Deere is stipulating that if you're going to get something repaired, it has to be done by a John Deere dealership, and further it has to be a John Deere part.
And
You
the
can't
tech,
have a substitute
yeah.
part.
And there's technology that makes that, that enforces that. And so if you know farmers, and I grew up in Iowa, of course, they are do-it-yourself people, right?
You don't say.
Yeah.
These are God's country. Yeah, I got
Right,
you.
right. So, and what's interesting, I mean, and how did this all get started? Let's step through the time machine, John.
I'm ready.
It's 1998. Titanic has just pulled in 11 Oscars. The House recommended impeaching Bill Clinton. Tara Lipinski's the youngest figure skater. Pol Pot dies in Cambodia. And people have the technology to rip CDs, to convert it into MP3s and share them on the internet with no control. And so, with good intentions, we'll assume good intentions, the Congress comes up with a Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which basically puts in provisions that to copy protect things, and you cannot tamper with copy protection, because if you do, that's a violation of the law. So these companies use that to enforce their ecosystems.
Get out, really?
Yeah, this is how it all happens legally.
This was basically in response to Napster, for
Correct.
those of us who are old enough to remember, right? That was the first sort of opportunity to pirate music and CDs and so forth, and to, distribute it wholesale. I mean, there's even a Seinfeld episode where the guy breaks into a movie theater and films, to get it out on the street before it's available on. So I get the premise that you should have protections of your intellectual property and such, but you're essentially saying that these companies have perverted such to make it that you can only use their parts.
Yeah, and so here it really gets pretty insidious, John. I'll give you mentioned Apple. So Apple, you can get a real Apple part put in your real Apple device, but if it isn't activated in an Apple store, it wouldn't work.
Timmy, I shit you not. We were at Apple this past week because you know how the things start to break down. And I have a friend of mine who worked for one of these companies, and the person both and the company shall remain nameless, but they're very well known. And he had told me that planned obsolescence is part of a lot of these technology companies' business models. They make it such, and I always know just based on how my phone starts to behave that I'm due for my upgrade. Because at about 19, 20, 21 months or so forth, geez, I must be eligible for a new upgrade, and I'll look, and sure enough, Timmy, I'm 3 months away. My phone starts acting weird. It doesn't record as much anymore. It doesn't do this. It's pocket dials a lot. I'm sure I'm responsible for some of it, but he had told me this is built into their business model. I mean, it's insidious.
It is insidious. And let me just give you some examples of this. There have been lawsuits. HP pushed an update to their systems that would only let it accept HP ink replacements or toner replacements in its printers, the same process.
And let's just get this out in the open. That is the biggest scam in the entire world. I print 4 things and my printer runs out.
Yeah.
Does that not drive you crazy?
It totally does.
I mean, my buddy has a subscription or something. It's like a permanent thing, and you just pay like a subscription fee.
Yeah.
And he prints a gazillion pages a month or something.
HP actually wanted to turn printing into a subscription. So you would have to pay for an ongoing subscription from your HP printer. This was a thing they had thought about, which they've gone back on. But so HP and Lexmark do that with printers. Keurig cups, when they went to the Keurig 2.0 cup in the mid teens, the cup checks to see if it has a licensed Keurig cup underneath it.
Is it pronounced Keurig or Keurig?
Keurig. I don't know.
Keurig. Yeah, we stopped using those because I'll tell you something. They're great for convenience. They're very easy, blah, blah, blah. But for some reason, it didn't seem to produce a very hot cup of coffee.
Yeah.
We would always, and my wife and I like it, Katie and I like it, like, surface of the sun hot, especially in the morning to get you moving. And it just doesn't seem to be that hot. So what you're telling me is they put in a pod that doesn't recognize that it's a Keurig or whatever, and it won't.
If you didn't pay Keurig, for the licensing or whatever, apparently there's a logo that the machine reads, the newer machines read.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll put a
I mean,
hack
and
online
again,
about that.
the purpose of intellectual property protection and patents and such is to reward people for their ingenuity. It's this basic idea that if a pharmaceutical company is going to invest heavily in R&D, which that's also the dirty little secret, the average pharmaceutical company spends nearly 2 to 3 times as much on marketing as they do on development. But nonetheless, that being neither here nor there, the idea behind it is that they put all this money into R&D. They want to have an opportunity, or at least a window, to reap the benefits of the profit from that research, and then ultimately things go on patent and others produce it at pennies on the dollar. I get that premise, but what you're essentially saying is they've perverted this to such a way that you can only use their parts, their systems, their engineers, their stores. Is that, I mean,
Yeah.
is that a fair summation?
Yeah, and another example is the McFlurry machine. So you go to McDonald's, you want like one of those soft serve or McFlurry things.
Yeah.
They cannot repair them themselves, and it turns out actually since the 90s, the Pentagon used to get full spec downloads on all their parts, and there are actually things. There's F-35 sitting on runways, and they have to have the company come out and do maintenance that they would have done on other fighters. So
Get out.
this is everywhere.
So let me give you two examples of things that just drive me nuts. Well, I already mentioned one. The printer ink to me is the biggest scam in the world. Now, one of the things I have found is unless it's absolutely necessary, I won't print something.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I just get to the point where and I mean, I remember Katie had to print out something she was the homeroom parent. She had to print out something like 40 color pages. And you know me, Timmy, I am not cheap. I got mad and she's like, this is for homeroom. And I was like, it's not the point. It's because we're going to end up spending $84 on color printer for 40 pages of something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just nuts how they make it so like just dependent. But the other one is, and this is actually from that same person I was telling you about, who told me about planned obsolescence being built into software and technology companies. This was an actual story. We had to find a flight to Chicago unexpectedly, like with 48 hours notice, to go meet a client. And so he and I booked our flights and we're flying into Chicago. This isn't Wichita, Kansas. This isn't Jackson, Wyoming. This is, the third largest city by most measures in the United States. There was not a rental car available in the entirety of Chicago proper. And he said, oh, just wait till 10:01 local time. And I thought, what the hell is he talking about? Sure enough, he says, it's 10:05. Go on your phone now and see where we can get a car. Well, what he told me was they program these technology companies, whether it's Avis or Expedia or any of these companies, they program to maximize their profits. So they know, for instance, my brother is basically a traveling salesperson who represents the upper Midwest or upper Western states, Alaska, Montana, Idaho, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
He has to fly, I'd say 40 weeks of the year. He, for a day trip, goes sees a client, gets on the night flight coming home, whatever it may be. And so what these companies have figured out is they block availability of their inventory until those day traders, if you will, come in and pay top dollar, because my brother just puts it on the company card, rents a car, goes to his client, comes back, drops it off, right? They can maximize the profit because he's only there for a day, maybe two, and they know this. So they block the inventory until 10 a.m. local time. And at 10:01, literally we were able to rent a car. All over the city there was cars available.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, that is how is that not a violation of antitrust? They're going after all the NCAA and all these other things, and rightfully so. Two things can be true at the same time, but how is that acceptable?
Well, this is we hit this on the podcast all the time, John. It's the turning over of what used to be human endeavors to a technological agent, which is more faster acting and more sophisticated. Right. So, for example, before the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, copying was illegal, and you could track down people who copied it, and you could send them to jail. Like that was a real thing, but that was too hard. So they said, let's make the technology do it for us. And now we're paying, $50 for a printer ink cartridge. Right. And it's the same thing with the car rentals. Oh, you have people check them in. You have people. But we turned over the opening up the inventory to the technology so that it could outsmart the human. Right. And this has happened with the automated cameras that watch people. Technology is being used as an agent against human beings. And the other part of this it's the unholy marriage of business and government. Friedrich Hayek talks about this in the Road to Serfdom. You had the power of a government, which can make things happen, and then you have business yanking on the levers of government.
Well, it's like the banks. I mean, they're too big to fail, right, Tim? I
Right.
mean, it's good work if you can get it. They have privatized the profits and socialized the losses. I mean, that is a phenomenal
Yeah.
business model if you
Right.
can create one.
I mean, and who, you know, this right to repair isn't just John Deere tractors. It's also Ford vehicles and GM, which has been bailed out once already, right? And so there's this big stakes at hand. But it turns out there's a little hope. Multiple states, I think that there've been legislation introduced in all 50 states now, trying to promote this right to repair. New York, California, Minnesota all have laws, and I think 1/5 of Americans live in a state now that has some sort of right to repair protections for you.
And the idea behind right to repair is, like you're saying, the salt of the earth, the folks that you grew up with in Iowa, that they should have the right to go in with off-brand parts for their tractor and put it in because they do it themselves. And I mean, do it yourself. If you can do it yourself, that's where cost savings
Well,
comes from.
and
Right?
John, just independent repair centers like your local mechanic who's not associated with an automaker.
Well, Timmy, when we went to the Apple store this weekend, I had bought my wife a watch. So all of the stuff stopped working.
Mhm.
And I just, I'm one of these people that I'm just going to do it once and get it done, right? That's why part of the reason that I love Costco. It's like, you know what, I'll just buy paper towels for the next couple of weeks and not worry about it, right? Just
Mhm.
the basic stuff, right?
Mhm.
The key is to avoid getting caught up in buying olives that you need four, and you have enough olives now until Jesus comes, right?
Yeah.
But my point nonetheless is I had ordered her a Apple Watch and I had ordered her a new computer. I ordered the new computer on the Apple website directly from Apple. It
Mhm.
shipped from Apple. I believe the watch was $40 less expensive if I ordered it on Amazon. And it's the exact same watch, brand
Mhm.
new, whole deal, right? So logic dictates I'm going to do whatever is going to save me money.
Mhm.
So I ordered it on Amazon because let's be honest, I order everything on Amazon. And when we went to the store, the woman said, "Well, we can't do certain things because you didn't buy this in the Apple store."
Yes.
And it was like, this is an Apple product.
Yes. Yes,
The other thing
John.
and this is the other thing that annoys me. And again, this is part of the reason that I've taken a step back from politics and I found myself mentally to be better off, I believe, ultimately, which is, can't we be adults? Everybody has to be a child. The Supreme Court ruled that racial gerrymandering as related to the Voting Rights Act is kaput, essentially. And the
Right.
argument, which is legitimate, I can see it, is that it's been 60 plus years. The notion of 1960s America and racial segregation was, acute. It's much more so. It's not to say that racism doesn't still exist, that there's not a need for protections and so forth. But basically, the Supreme Court said, look, it has run its course. It did what it's needed to do. Whether you agree with the decision or not, I can see why the Supreme Court ruled the way it did.
Mhm.
That being said, what I'm saying is now Louisiana has suspended all their primaries. Alabama has done the same so that they can redraw their districts, essentially creating districts that they know they're going to win, which of course means it's a nuclear arms race. If the Republican states are going to do it, guess what the Democratic states are going to do,
Mhm.
right? So it's just a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
Nobody can be an adult, right? And this is real tangible power we're dealing with, and it's people acting as though they're 11, not adults.
Yes.
And actually, that's an insult to 11-year-olds because I've met some very intelligent and capable
Yeah.
11-year-olds. But my point being is Apple engages in this behavior. And I find it to be acute with Apple because they're a $1 trillion company. They're so omnipresent. Here's two things. Number one, they change the shape of their chargers like every 2 years. It's like banks. They used to make money by lending.
Hold on this one. They changed it to USB-C to comply with regulations of the EU. That's why
Right.
that was the last change. Yeah.
Right. They had to now. Right. I
Yeah.
get that. Right.
Yeah.
But prior to that, they would change the shape of it. It seemed like every 2 years or
Yeah.
every year even.
Right.
And it's kind of like banks. The dirty little secret is banks used to, loan out money and make money on the interest and, loan you money to go buy a house or start a business and what have you and make money on the interest.
Mhm.
Now it's on administrative and bookkeeping, if you will. They charge fees to have a checking account. They have overdraft fees and things of that nature. That's where the predominance of their revenue is coming, or at least a significant portion of their revenue. And it just seems to me, it's kind of like with Apple. It's not enough that you make iPhones. You have to have only iPhone products and all these other things. And I have, so for instance, I switched from Apple to Samsung years ago. I've since switched back because it's one of these things. It's like fighting the DMV, right?
Right.
There's no point. I'm just gonna to roll over. I prefer Samsung products. I find them to be better. I find the batteries to be better. I find them to be more intuitive. That's just my personal experience. But for instance, when I switched from Apple to Samsung, there is a stipulation and somewhere in the contracts with Apple, they don't have to transfer your contacts for 30 days. So they held on to my, like, I only know 5 people: my wife, my mom, my dad,
right.
you know, like, so I knew kind of all of their numbers.
Yeah.
But if I had to call up the local pizza joint that I just have in my phone, I don't remember that number, so I had to go look it up again.
Yeah.
It's just that type of pettiness. And this right to repair is just it's like you're missing the forest for the trees. You're creating a product. You're not, but again, they're trying to create an addiction. I get it. I understand why. It doesn't make it right though. So
Yeah.
and Apple to me is just the worst offender of it, because they change, you know, they're making their money off of, you have to buy a new charging system, and they have the chargers now that you lay flat, and you have to do this, and you have to do that. And I buy off-brand products. I've done it before, and now I've just given up, because after 60 days, a couple months, I think Apple figures it out or something, and the you know, the earbuds, for instance, don't work as well, or this doesn't work as well, and it's like, just they've made it such that it's like, you know what, I don't have the will to fight you. I'm just going to give up. But it shouldn't be.
Right. Yeah, and I do think there's a difference between protecting copyrighted work and patented things and locking people into your system.
There's a huge tangible difference, is there not?
Yeah, and there was I will tell you, there was federal effort on this. It was bipartisan, because this cuts across all, you know, it cuts across all.
It pisses off Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah. It failed last year. It was a bipartisan effort. They tried to do it at the federal level. That's the right way to do it, I think, because the problem was created at the federal level.
Now, hold on a second. I got to sit down. Did you just argue for increased federal involvement in anything? Because that might be
it's the federal government trying to undo something it did. Right.
Fair enough.
I thought it was, you know, I find it interesting. My dad used to work for Deere. You know, I find it interesting. I grew up in Iowa. John Deere, you know, is the heart of America. Yes, the heart of America, right? That's why I thought this was interesting.
I've never heard of it. So you had brought this up. And it's just, but it as soon as you brought it up, now I'm starting to get myself thinking of all these examples I've had where it's like, I didn't realize that. But yeah, they make it such that, you know, your product isn't going to work as well if it's not our product.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, two cool things. There's a company that makes laptops. It's called Framework. They're based in the US, and the whole concept is that it's repairable and modular. You actually, like, the ports, you sort of pick what ports you want. You can sort of put in these modules. Super cool if you want a repairable laptop. The reviews look good. And it looks like Lenovo, the world's biggest laptop manufacturer, in some of their upcoming models, are taking a page from Framework and making it so you can replace the memory, the keyboard, and stuff yourself.
But you know what normally happens, right? Lenovo is going to probably end up buying this company, kind of quietly shutting it down.
Could be,
you know, to make it go away. You know?
Yeah. So there's progress. People care about this. There's also a site folks can check out, iFixit, which tells you how easy.
I have heard of that.
It's a good
site. It tells
site.
you how to do it yourself.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of times when you order these things, so I've done this, Timmy. I ordered chargers that were not Apple chargers, and I've noticed 3, 4, 5, 6 months, they're working great, everything's fine. 3, 4, 5, 6 months in, suddenly it's not charging, it's not connecting, it's not working. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
But there's nothing I can do. I mean, there probably is something I can do, but
here's one more example for you. So let's say you buy a Tesla, and there's 2 Teslas. There's one with the 60 kilowatt.
Have you seen the bumper sticker that says, "I bought this before he became an asshole"?
Yeah.
For Tesla.
So there's one that says, you know, a 60 kilowatt battery and an 80 kilowatt battery. Okay. Sometimes it's the same battery, and it's just a software lock.
Really?
Yeah. So like when people were in hurricane area a few years ago, they sent out a signal over the air so everybody's Tesla could drive as far as it could to get them out of there. But I just find that it's just fascinating.
But it's not just fascinating, it's unethical. I mean, it's just this example that I was absolutely dumbfounded when this happened, though, when I was in Chicago. And this is 6, 8, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
This is not they've even become more pernicious and more sort of involved in doing certain things. And it's one of these things that I've come almost to accept it. And the best example I can give you is I'll get on a plane with my TSA pre-check, and they have a screenshot of your face, and they do this, artificial intelligence reading of your face, and it stipulates that we're definitely going to delete this after you leave.
Yeah,
I have no delusions that they're A, deleting that, or B, that it's not going into some CIA database. I find that to be impossible to believe. Well, Timmy, that was a cool topic. I've never even thought of that, and I hope our listeners, all 12 of you, enjoyed it, because I did not know about this till you told me. But now that you bring it up, I'm going to be much more cognizant of it. And it's so obvious to me in certain things that they do that. But this right to repair, my God, it's my product. Let me buy. Let me do it the way I want to do it.
Check into your rights.
You got your money.
Yeah, check into your rights, folks. And if you hear federal legislation coming up, write to your congressman or senator. So.
If they can read.
Oh, that was political advertising, John. Sorry.
There you go. Yeah, if they can read. Did you ever hear that story about, I forget who it was. It was somebody who didn't get along with Jack Kemp or something, and he said Jack Kemp's book, or unfortunately Jack Kemp's house caught on fire. And if it's not Jack Kemp, I apologize to his memory and to his friends and so forth. But one of his, political rivals said apparently Jack Kemp's house caught on fire. Unfortunately, it burned his library, and Jack Kemp was most upset because both of his books were in there, and he hadn't had a chance to color either one of them.
Oh man,
I think it was Jack Kemp, but it was someone like that. So it's just one of those picking on politicians.
Yeah.
Timmy, we're going to do something a little different today, aren't we? We're going to both have a hero.
Double heroes.
Yeah, I have to tell you my hero, and I've always enjoyed politicians, most especially after they leave office, because I get it. You're in the game. It's oftentimes a team sport. Rick Santorum, our former senator from Pennsylvania, got himself into hot water one time, and they said, "Why did you vote for that?" Even though if you didn't philosophically agree with it, and he said, "Sometimes politics is a team sport, folks." And there is an element of me that recognizes you have to say certain things when you're in office. There's stipulations, expectations and so forth, and fundraising, and you go against this or that, and they're going to go after you. I get it, I do, but I tend to enjoy politicians when they're out of office because I find them to be much more candid about the process, what was happening, what was going into their thought process. And I think sometimes politicians get a bad rap because they're oftentimes presented with very sort of difficult choices. I could go this way, I could go that way. I just talked about the Voting Rights Act. I can see both sides to this. I really can. But one of the people that I always enjoyed, even when he was in office, is former Senator Ben Sasse, who was from the great state of Nebraska. And he got out of politics, became the president of the University of Florida education system. I always found him to be an extraordinarily interesting guy because even though I don't necessarily see eye to eye with his politics, I respected his opinion. I feel this way about people like George Will and others that can substantiate their opinions and tell me why they see it this way. It's kind of how I feel about you, Timmy. Like you and I don't see the world the same way, but you can substantiate how you came to feel this way, and it's not just based on a whim. I haven't watched the whole interview, and I can't, to be perfectly candid with you, but he gave an interview. He is apparently dying. He has a terminal cancer diagnosis. He wrote about it in the last year on the Washington Post and essentially said, "I'm going to die, folks." That was the headline. And he has embraced it fully. He's a young man. I think he's less than 55 years old, 54, 55 years old. He's got 3 children he's leaving behind. He was on the 60 Minutes interview, and he was talking to Scott Pelley about, what he's expecting, and he doesn't have any fear. He said, I wanted to take my girls down the aisle. Unfortunately, that's not going to be in the cards. He said, my wife's going to be without me for a few years, but we'll meet up again. And the Babylon Bee, as tends to be the case, hit it right on the head. And they had a headline after that interview, and it said, "Seeing his decency and his ethics, Americans now understand why Ben Sasse had to get out of politics." But even when he was in office, I enjoyed him, and I want to wish him the best. I'll pray for a speedy recovery. He seems to have come to grips with the idea that it's not going to happen, and it's one of the few people that I've always respected, both in and out of office. And seeing that interview, really, he's my hero of the week because it just reminded me of the importance of life. That you chase the almighty buck, you're doing this, you're doing that, but you know what? Spend some time with your kids because you're not getting it back.
Yeah,
so he's my hero this week, Timmy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you see the interview?
I did not. No.
Have you heard of it? Have you seen clips? It's all over.
Yeah, no, I haven't.
On LinkedIn, and it was fabulous. But I can't watch it. It's one of those things that I'll deal with when I get there, but I don't want to necessarily deal with it in advance.
Yeah, yeah. There's this wonderful book they tell us about in medical school. I think it's good. It's called Tuesdays with Maury, It's about I think a journalist who spends Tuesdays with a
Yeah,
gentleman.
Midge Album. Yeah, with
Yeah,
a terminally ill patient.
yeah, and I have not read that yet. Yeah, it's interesting. Our thoughts are with him. My hero is, we talk about big stuff. We talk about the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, all that stuff. I just found this article on a clothing closet in that gives clothing to people who need it in Wrightstown, Wisconsin, which is a small town. It's basically volunteer run. It's open 2 days a month. People bring in their stuff locally that they want to turn in. It gets cleaned up, labeled, sorted, and then there's no proof of income, nothing. You just go to the store and you take what you need. And right now its home is in a Lutheran church, but it's going to move. But it's just this notion, we get overwhelmed by these big problems, and there are big problems. But also, not forgetting that there are things we can do in our own communities, in our lives, that make things noticeably better for people. So I'll just have put an article about that, about this clothing closet in Wrightstown, Wisconsin.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And Timmy, two last things real quickly. Well, obviously, I want to sign off with my typical sign off, but I'm always reminded when you were saying that you should think globally and act locally.
Yes.
That's always the big one. And the golfer whose name escaped me, I knew it would come to me. It's
Yeah.
Bubba Watson. He's
Bubba
one
Watson.
of the original owners of the automobile that shall remain nameless until next week, but you and I know of what we're speaking from, Dukes of Hazzard.
Yep.
But Timmy, that was a fascinating topic even for me, because I was not familiar with that. And you know what? Talk about something that makes me mad. So thank you. Yeah. But Timmy, have a great weekend. Sorry for the delay, everyone, but hey, it's our podcast. And this is John Bolin signing off, saying, hey, misbehave, drive fast, take chances.
And this is Tim. We've got some guests in the pipeline. Keep listening. And thanks for the conversation, John. And if everybody likes what you're doing, you're probably not doing anything worthwhile. Let's take care out there.